it's just so, it's like if Fancy and Comfy had a baby. Hi, my name is Bethany, and this is the CapitalKknitting podcast. We have so many new people who have subscribed to the channel in the last month, and I'm so happy about it. That's so great, and welcome, and yeah, it's so good to have you here. Secondly, I wanted to say thank you so much to those of you who downloaded the Tread Heavy sock pattern. The donation to the Red Cross was sent today for the last 2 weeks of the pattern sales. I originally was going to do a week, and then I just decided 2 weeks is, in between that podcast and this podcast, we'll just put that all together and send it over. And it's really great. It not only is great now in this period of time to be able to partner with you and being able to give more to help Ukraine than I would normally able to do myself personally, but it gives me a lot of hope for the future that as I continue to design, that there will be more opportunities, and that will grow, and that the impact will be even bigger in the future. So I'm hoping that that just continues, and it's been really new and great experience for me. So thank you. The last piece of admin information is actually really fun. The Malwena Sweater, which you guys have seen before if you've been watching the last few episodes. This is a sweater that was a test knit for Alex of Vert and Rose. It's gorgeous. It's a gorgeous sweater, and the details on it, the just swanky lace on the sleeves, and just look at that. Look at it. Oh my goodness. And the raglan detail and everything, they are not as hard as they look. They're actually they're actually pretty fun to do. And so from now until Sunday, today is Tuesday when I'm filming, so it'll probably be Wednesday when this is published, but until Sunday, the pattern is 20% off. So make sure to download it now so that you can get that deal. It's just such a lovely pattern. I was obsessed with it when I started it. It took me 9 days to finish because I didn't do anything else hardly. And it's just so, it's like if Fancy and Comfy had a baby. Like, I wear it to church because it's so cute and pretty and feminine, and then I come home after church and lay on the couch with my kids because it's so comfy. And I don't know if you can hear that helicopter. They fly pretty low here. I live on an army base, so they fly pretty low here. Tonight's what's tonight's jump night? It's a jump night for the soldiers, so they're all, doing their stuff. But anyway, Malwina Sweater is up, it is out, it is fresh, it is new, it is lovely. The only modification that I made to the pattern was to continue this raglan detail down the side, and I loved doing that. Another tester, instead of like just stopping under here and then starting from the middle, what they did is they took the two and continued the two raglan things down the side, and that was really pretty too. I might do that with my next one because I'm pretty sure I'm gonna make another one. It's a really enjoyable knit, because if you're a person who wants to have like that, I feel like every knitter has a different combination of this, where you want stockinette but you also want to be engaged in the process. There are different points in it where it's like, oh, I gotta do, this much stockinette before I can do this, but then you're to the detail part of it, and then you can go on to more stockinette. It's a really great mixture of both things. I think it's not only a beautiful product, but it was a really fun process too. So there, admin stuff is done. I'm going to get myself a drink, and if you want to pause and also get yourself a drink, we should do that and then dive into projects. Okay, got my chai in my quirky mug. If you guys recognize that little guy, then you know exactly who the drawings are by. My sister got me this mug and a t-shirt that says "Imagine Pleasant Nonsense" on the front of it with the guy, you know, in bed about to be dreaming. And I just love them so much. They're great. Okay, so FOs. Let's talk about Musselburgh number 4. Oh, that one is finally done. It is off to Noah. My friends, Destiny and Noah, they both have Musselburghs now. I gave Destiny a Musselburgh for Christmas, and Noah saw it and very sweetly said that he would love to have one too. And I just thought that would be great. So cute for you two to have like kind of matching hats, fraternal hats basically. So hers was red with some gold stripes and had this black on the outside, because I know that for her and for him, it like the black option is a good option. That's just part of kind of their aesthetic. And so I did a different, you know, other half for him, but I kept the black half on that side just to, you know, if they both wanted to wear their little black hats, then they would have it. I'm trying to see if my Musselburgh is in here. I don't think it is. It is. Okay. So I've made 4 Musselburghs now. I don't feel like I'm going to be making another one. I said that after the 3rd Musselburgh, but I really don't think I'm going to be making another one anytime soon. But I actually do really like the Musselburgh pattern, and that's for a few reasons. One, I love patterns that have you swatch at the beginning of the pattern just with your project, so that, and with the Musselburgh, it's even more different than that. Basically, you can, whatever your gauge is here, you can figure out how to make that work within the pattern, because they have a graph that'll show you basically how many more increases you need to do to make that gauge work, and it's fantastic. Secondly, I really like it because it is, after you get these increases, after you get these increases done, it's just, you know, from here to here, it's all just stockinette in the round. And so it is really nice waiting room knitting and movie theater knitting, as if I've ever knit in a movie theater. I only go see movies on dates with my husband, and he prefers that I leave knitting at home when we're on a date, which is totally understandable, so that's what I do. But I've actually been thinking about just going to go see a movie by myself at some point and see how much I knit in the theater. Yeah, it'd be fun. Well, I did knit in a movie theater one time. It was for my dad's birthday, and it was kind of interesting because I was at a ribbing part, and so every once in a while I did have to look and be like, did I just do a knit stitch or a purl stitch? I don't know, but this would have been perfect. A Musselburgh is perfect. Note to those who haven't done a Musselburgh before, or haven't done a half and half Musselburgh before. If you're doing like just a stripy Musselburgh and you're thinking, oh, it'll be reversible, I'll wear this side or that side, it's totally doable. But if you're doing like one color and another color, and there's like a line where it's supposed to be different and reversible, it's a little bit impossible for that to happen perfectly, because you have 2 curvatures that you're going to be dealing with. One is this inner layer, right, is sitting just a little bit below the top layer, because the top layer is sitting on top of it, right? So this, whatever's inside of it, there's just a little bit more fabric that's going to come out, because it's not sitting at the same place as the outside is, and it can't, because they can't take up the same space. And this little curvature here, just the lip on mine, is about 1/4 of an inch. So I'm just pulling little pills and stuff off of it. I wear it so much, guys. I wear it so much. And I don't even wear it when it's cold necessarily. I do wear it when it's cold, but I also just wear it because it's my favorite hairstyle is to wear a musselburg. So this curvature here also affects that as well. So you can't actually have an exact half and half. And you can tell because with this one, I tried to do it exactly half and half. And you can see that line of where that alpaca ends. This alpaca was supposed to just be all on the inside. And I did it exactly. I measured it exactly half, knit it exactly half, did the decreases just like the increases. And of course, because this curvature on the inside is lower than this one is on the outside, and because this curvature just exists on this lip, there is about a 1/2 inch of alpaca there. I don't mind that at all with this hat. I actually think it's cute to have like that little rim, but if you're not going to think that that's cute and you would rather just have all one color on one side and you're okay with having like a rim on the other side, then that's what you should do. Because with this being exactly half and half, if I pull it this way to do it that way, you can see it just does it again. It just does it on the other. You can see where it was creased for the way it was before. So that's just how the cookie crumbles with this one. It's not something I thought through when I did this one. And that's okay. It's not a big deal for mine. But if you were looking to have a half and half, that's something you would probably want to know. So with Destiny's and Noah's, I made sure that the black was actually the one that would be on the, like, into the lip. And I feel like that decision was perfect for them. So, yeah. So that is the first FO of this episode. The second and last FO is actually the resolution of a long-standing UFO. When I first started knitting with a capital K over 2 years ago, I signed up for these, what do you call them, subscription boxes that I did a stitch sampler blanket, both of them. I did the striped one and I did the square one as the subscription. And I never finished them. I was planning on giving them to both sets of my husband's and my parents because the striped ones I thought our moms would like, and the square ones I thought our dads would like, and so I doubled the pattern. I would do what I was sent with the subscription service, and now that I know how much yarn they send you for that, I probably could have just done it with like both with the yarn that they send, because they send you whole skeins of yarn for the next part, even though the square is like this, it's not necessary. But who knows what someone may have encountered while they were knitting and had to start over or something. So that I still have the striped ones for our moms. I still have the square one for my dad. I'm not entirely sure if they will end up actually being for those people, because now I have some other ideas of what I'd like to make for them. There's this gorgeous shawl that I think my mother-in-law would love. I gave my dad this woven shawl that's a replica of Lincoln's shawl that he wore in the White House on cold days, and he absolutely loves it. And so, and I've, since I've knit my mom some mitts and some socks and things like that, now I feel like I have a better idea of what I could do for them that would be a little more personal. So I had these 9 squares knit up, and I'm saying this as if all of you know. For those of you who don't know, my father-in-law passed away 5 days before Christmas last year. So it was a big surprise for us because he was in a car accident. So I have just had these kind of laying around, and I thought, you know what? I'm just gonna sew these up and sew them together. So I did. This is actually the back because I sewed them together the wrong way. This is the front, the right side of all the blocks, but I mattress stitched them with the seam on the wrong side. And I did it with a couple of them and then thought, well, I've already done that, so I might as well do it that way with these. This is actually still kind of damp too, so I threw it in the washer last night. It's all acrylic yarn, and it's just these little sampler stitches that they're just basically big old swatches. And eventually you have 30 squares and you put it all together and put a border around it, and then it's blanket. And I just don't know what to do with it, you know? I'm not sure how to feel complete around it. And I don't know if I will. In fact, not feeling complete around it seems pretty appropriate. It doesn't feel good, but it feels pretty appropriate for how I feel right now about how we don't have him right now. So I'm still thinking about how to use it. I've been working with myself around how I don't have to utilize or make things useful for every single thing in my life. Like, that's exhausting, and I don't have to do that. I'm not ruining our natural environment if I am not keeping track of every little thing, right? But also, I don't know how to depersonalize this. So if you have an idea, I would love to hear it. Honestly, I would love to hear some options of what you would do or what you have done with something that you weren't able to give to someone. I was able to donate the rest of the yarn for the blanket to a Girl Scouts troop, which was really nice. And that felt really good. That's something that I knew I wasn't going to use anymore because I didn't want to use it anymore for what it was intended for, is now being used to teach other girls to knit, which is like, okay, yes, that's great. And I'm still thinking through the pieces that I have here, what I want to do with those. I almost just bound off the striped ones the other day and was thinking, okay, those are done, you know? And I'm still tempted to do that a little bit and just ship the rest of that yarn off to the Girl Scout troop as well. Because I kind of just like to move on, you know? I'd kind of just like to move on from, not the death of my father-in-law. That's not gonna, that's just, we all know that grief is something that stays with you, but like move on in my skill journey in knitting, that I don't have to finish those to be a good knitter. I don't have to finish those to like check off the beginner knitter course in my head. Yeah. So that is a thing that I am sorting through mentally right now, and I would love to hear your opinion and advice about it. So please leave me a comment, or, follow me on Instagram and send me a message or something. I would absolutely love your input around that whole blanket situation. Okay, so there's going to be a segment today that's a little different than usual. Next, we'll go into whips, and then after that, we're going to go into it kind of blends together, the whips and like responsibility obligation knitting, and then we'll go into acquisitions, because some of the things that I am responsible for knitting right now are not actually cast on, but I'm still going to show you the gorgeous yarn and the pattern that I'm testing for and things like that. So, okay, we have a week before the end of the winter, and I have some winter goals that you guys know I'm trying to accomplish. Now, the goal originally was to finish the By the Campfire Cardi and the Drk Everyday Sweater and the Snowy Day Sock and publish the Tread Heavy Sock, which I'm actually wearing the Tread Heavy Socks right now. If you're unfamiliar with the Tread Heavy Socks, it reinforces not just the back of your heel, it follows it through to the bottom of your heel. You also have an option to rib the bottom, and then you can reinforce the ball of your foot and through the toe if you choose to do so. It's just a sole pattern actually, so that you can use it with the instep and the front of your leg using whatever you want. It's very versatile and I love it. So the Tread Heavy Sock was obviously published, and that is check, check, check. It is great. It is perfect. It's everything that I want it to be right now. On these fronts, we have had steady progress. We are getting there. And I knit the Malwena Sweater not having that on my docket of goals. So originally I was wanting to finish this cardigan, finish this pullover, so that I would have a cardigan and a pullover. But right now I already have a pullover because I was obsessed with that sweater, and now it's done. So I'm thinking I'm going to give myself some grace around the Drk Everyday Sweater. Still want to finish it, still want it to be done, still want to wear it. It's going to be great, but that it doesn't necessarily have to be done in my mind by the equinox. So this is, and that's what I'm measuring the seasons by. That's how it's easier for me to do goals that way rather than have like a year full of goals. That's hard for me to accomplish. So the progress here is that the By the Campfire Sweater is the two sides have been put together, and that is a 3-needle bind off in there. Isn't that seam just perfect? And then the bottom of it is already steeked. So I went to my yarn shop and they were all so supportive and there to kind of hold my hand while I steeked the bottom of this. And I crocheted the sides before I did it. And what's supposed to happen, because this is pretty rustic yarn, right? And you can see that my steeking stitches are kind of coming apart, but as you work with it, after you block it, it's supposed to just kind of felt down. And now what I need to do is pick up the sleeve stitches, but that's not going to take very long, I think, to do the sleeves, especially compared to the rest of it, because the sleeve is already to my elbow. So it's not gonna, it's almost like a bat wing kind of thing going on there. And it's not going to take long to do. The one saving grace here on this last step is to do the ribbing on the bottom here. And that's going to be really good, actually. I was thinking about omitting it for a little bit, but I'm almost positive that I'm going to do it. I'm not sure if I'm going to try and block it first before I do that, because my stitch counts on some of this were pretty off. And that is visible on part of the color work. Is it this side? There's a gap where, maybe it's this side, and you guys may have already seen it. Am I not going to be able to find it? That would be amazing if it's just not even that noticeable. I think it's right here. And this is going to show you how off I was on the stitch counts, because there's this little like bubble here. Do you see that? There's this little bubble, and there's this wide place here where there's like no pattern going on when there should be, or actually when there just shouldn't be as many stitches. So I'm trying to think through how to fix that. I'm wondering if blocking will do that, but I'm also wondering if it's not going to help with that, if I'll need to like just kind of put it together there and whip stitch it on the inside real good. I'm still thinking through it. this is my first big color work project, and I'm actually really proud of how it's turning out. I know that on this side the stitch counts were a little bit off, but I'm good. I think it's going to be great. It is so warm. I put it on for a second when I was in the yarn shop and I had to take it off because it's really warm. This black is the Galaxy colorway by Let Lopi, and this is also Let Lopi in the light ash heather, and then this green is the Tundra colorway by Holstgarn, and this qualifies for Creabea's cone along knit along because the Holstgarn that I have is in a cone. So what I've been doing, of course I have these, but what I've been doing with the cone is I've been, you know, taking this on my ball winder, and then when I have it, you know, about this size, I'll take it off, and then I'll take the strand from the inside and the outside, hold them together, and then wind those so that it's actually two strands coming off together. A lot of times I'll just take the strand from the inside and the outside and hold those together at the same time anyway. But with this, I kind of wanted it to be easier since I'm going to be doing this color thing, and I think that was a good idea. Part of why I did that though is because I thought, well, obviously I can't hold it from the inside of the cone. And that's not true. If you're going to be using a substantial amount of your cone, what you can do is pop the cone out of the middle. It's totally doable. And then you could find that little end in there and, you know, knit from the inside and the outside if you're a person who does that like me. And you wouldn't have to, you know, sit and wind it all the time every time you need some more yarn wound off. And yeah, and then it just pops right back in. You just shove it back in there and it's good to go. So it's been fun, and I have heard that this blooms significantly. I've seen it on a couple of people's projects. I haven't seen the before and after really. I've seen the after, and then I've seen like the yarn on people's cones. So I'm interested to, you know, basically hold it in my own hands and see how much the yarn blooms for that. Because this obviously looks like a lace weight yarn. It doesn't look like a fingering weight yarn. But it's graded as a fingering weight yarn. And since they leave all that spinning oil in there and makes it way more cost effective, that's why it's a little different to work with. It is super dry on my hands. I don't enjoy working with it as much as the Let Lopi, even though that's also a little bit dry. But it is cost effective and it is very warm. So that's good. Okay, here we are with our Drk Everyday Sweater. I have this little row counter on here. I'm absolutely in love with it. I used to see them and be like, why would you do that? And it's so dumb of me to judge anyone for not remembering anything. I don't know what I did on the row that I've just knit most of the time, especially if I'm like watching a movie or something. Absolutely not. That's ridiculous. So this has been so nice because when I'm able to measure my row gauge, then I can look at it, and it's surprising how many times I measure my row gauge, I look at what I'm doing, I realize I have 10 more rows to go. And it's been great. So I have, this is my last row before the ribbing for the bottom. And I'm so glad to be there. I'm so glad to be at that point. That means that it's going to be a little bit more cropped than what I was originally planning for. But because the Malwena sweater is a regular length sweater, like it hits me at like the middle of my hip bone, I am wanting this one to be a little more cropped because I was thinking it'd be fun to wear it with like overalls and skirts and things like that. Dresses and all. And but I do want the sleeves to be a full-length sleeve. I think because this is superwash yarn, I'm gonna knit it to the bracelet length and then block it and then see where we're at. I'm pretty sure we're gonna be good because, of course, with the stitches relaxing, it's kind of got an exponential factor, even though it's like itty bitty, right? The factor of a stitch relaxing is little. It's exponential because it has hundreds of stitches in it. So thousands at this point, actually. But since it's a sport weight sweater, it would be okay too for it to be a little bit like longer and not, it wouldn't make me hot or over, I don't know, be in my way, I guess, because it's not going to be thick and bumbly. This is done in this Huasco sock base, and it is a kettle dyed yarn, and it's in the colorway ochre. And then this is the Cumulus alpaca. It is a Surrey alpaca with a mulberry silk blend. It's like 74% alpaca, 26% silk. And holding them together has given me this, of course they are not the same shade at all, but it's given me this really cool honey color, and I really, really like it. Like true honey color, where it's like honeycomb almost with the way it's there. So I have not been alternating skeins at all because I feel like the alpaca breaks it up enough that it is not, like, it's not noticeable at all. So we are, yeah, we are so close to having that body done, man. I can feel it. I can feel it. Maybe a couple of days, maybe. I am not a monogamous knitter at all, if you haven't found that out yet. So this is the last thing that I want to complete to be done with winter goals. Basically, I wanted to make sure that I had a cardigan, I wanted to make sure I had a pullover sweater, and I wanted to make sure that all the socks that didn't have second socks had second socks from the year 2021. So the last sock that doesn't have a second sock yet is the Snow Day sock by Katie Anders. And if you go to her website, she also has yarn that she dyes, and I'm using some of that for another project, so I'll show you that in a little bit. This is the main color on it is the Huasco sock in, I always have to read it slowly, Antofagasta colorway, and I just think it looks so much like melting snow. I think it's perfect for it. So the first sock that I made, is right here, and this is what it looks like when it's all done up. You can see the stitch pattern there, goes all the way down the leg. It is a long legged sock. It comes up off my blockers here. One of the things that I've noticed is that either my gauge changed significantly since knitting my first sock, which is entirely true. Those first socks I made are like titanium. They may never wear out because the gauge is so tight on them. Or my feet have shrunk since, I had a baby 2 years ago, and a lot can happen in that period of time. So this sock doesn't actually fit me very well. In fact, a couple of my socks don't fit me very well because of that. And so I'm wondering if when I finish these, because I'm just going to make them like I made this one, I'm not going to tear this one back. I'm wondering if I should give them to someone else. And I do have some friends and family who have feet that are a little bigger than mine, and so I think that might be a good idea for that. We'll just have to see who they're for once I finish them. So I got the top colorwork section done here. It is so sweet. I really like it, the way that it turns out. You can see these little gaps where my DPNs were, and I'm not worried about that. I didn't even block that one. I didn't actually, well, maybe I blocked it once, and it's fine. It all moves around, it all shifts around, and it's good to go. So I have to do the slip stitch pattern, well, the rest of the sock basically. But what's nice about this pattern is that the whole leg has different stitches for you to pay attention to. And so it's, for me, sometimes doing a long leg of a sock is hard because it's just like a whole nother foot. You just have to keep knitting forever. And this one's nice because it is engaging. And I have this other skein. I've had it for a while because I realized that after I did my first trial of the socks and I knit them entirely too tight, I couldn't get them over my heel after I did the heel turn. Didn't realize that I had knit the color work on the leg so tight. So then, of course, they went to one of my kids because that they were able to get it over their heel. And my little girl, she just wore them. I'm surprised she didn't wear them out. She just wore them all the time. She loved them. All she wore was underwear and those socks for weeks. And it was really sweet. But when they became too small for her, because after I did it was actually after I did the gusset decreases, I think I was trying to put it on my foot to see how much foot I needed to knit before I started my toe, and I couldn't get it on. So I tried it on with the needles on it and everything on whoever's foot it would go over, and she was the winner. Her foot was the one. And so I just immediately started the toes because that was what would fit the length of her foot. They were entirely too wide for her. It was ridiculous, but she wore them. She loved them. So, yeah, so obviously with that, even though I frogged those and I was planning to use those, I think my light is dimming out again. Okay, got that fixed. Snowy day socks. So I frogged the pair that my daughter wore because they got too small for her, and they will not fit my younger son because she is 4 and he is 2, but they have the same size feet, which is, I can't imagine how tall he's going to be as an adult. So this is the purple yarn from that, and this is the Huasco sock yarn from that, and you can tell that obviously it's dulled quite a bit, and I don't want to use it for the sock for it to look dingy on the foot when it's, I don't know. I've even washed that after I frogged it and everything. Maybe it needs another good wash. I'm not sure. But I'm just going to use the skein. I have it. I have the yarn. I don't need to feel bad about breaking into yarn I already have. So I almost forgot. This is not necessarily a winter knit that I have to get, like, it's a winter knit, but it's not something I have to get done for winter goals. But it's also not something that I have to do for anybody else. It's not in the responsibility knitting category. So it's just kind of its own regular whipness. So these are the flip top mitts from Vanessa Emery, and I made a pair of these for my mom, and I really liked them, and I thought as soon as I gave them to her, I need to make a pair of these for myself. So there are 2 things that I know that I want to modify in this pattern, even though the pattern itself is really great. One is I'm doing a double thick cuff here. So it's a twisted rib. So on the inside, I didn't do a twisted rib. I just did a regular rib. But on the outside, I did a twisted rib. And then I'm doing this in the same yarn that I made my mom's mitts out of. This is a merino silk yarn blend. Here we go. It's that Nuble yarn that we like in the colorway Indigo. And then the thicker alpaca yarn, I only have, oh come on, I only have this bit left of it. There's like a little denser ball in there, but it's not very much. And originally I was thinking that I would want to do the top of the mitt, the convertible part where it's just, you know, I don't know, 4 or 5 rows of twisted rib and then you bind that off. I thought, ooh, if I do the cuff like that and I do that like that, then whatever's in the middle, then it'll be kind of sandwiched and that would be cute. But I don't even think I have enough to do that. So what I'm going to do, I think, is just fade it in to the next yarn. So this is the same brand, same weight. It's just a different colorway. And you can see this is obviously like a dusty blue. It's in the colorway Cornflower. And this one is the same Juniper Moon Harriet yarn, and it's in the colorway Dark Harbor. So it's almost like it's just a moodier, you know, tealy, oceany-esque, dark at night ocean color. So I'm just gonna fade that in. I'm just gonna let it disappear into Dark Harbor there. And I'm excited about that. I think it's going to look really nice. And so the first modification is the double thick cuffs. That the provisional cast on double thickness thing isn't called for in the pattern. It's just this 2 inches and then, you know, you move on with your life. But the other thing that I am going to modify is in the pattern, it has you do the cabling on this part of the mitt and then this part, like the convertible part, right, that you pull over your fingers. This part of the mitt and this part of the mitt has cabling, but the back of the hand doesn't have cabling on it. So when it's folded back, it looks super beautiful because that cabling is like showcased there. But when you pull it forward, it just kind of starts where those stitches were picked up. And I think I would like it to just go all the way through. So as I'm continuing on from these cuffs, I need to figure out what that needs to look like, where that needs to start, so that all of that can line up with when those stitches are picked up with the convertible part of it. I think that would be really nice. Even though it will take longer because the mitt part of it was the part that took no time at all. The little pullover finger part of it, the finger mitten part of it, is the part that took the most time because there were cables on both sides of it. But I was a little bit miffed that I hadn't continued working on them. For a little bit I was like, oh, well, maybe I'll just finish them, you know, just every once in a while I'll work on them and it'll be done for next winter. And this past weekend, we got snow. We never get snow here in Kentucky, like hardly ever. And when we do, the sun just melted immediately. And it was so cold and snowy, and I didn't have my mitts done. And I just thought, ugh, if you had just been working on them in the rotation of things, they might have at least been mitts at that point. So who knows? Maybe not. Maybe they still would have been just a whip, that I would be sad that they weren't done. But I am looking forward to next fall and winter because I feel like I'm just kind of preparing for all of that. Where we're moving to in Indiana has a much harder winter than here in Kentucky. Like, it's pretty drastic, the difference. And so I feel like I'm just kind of preparing for that time for myself, that I'll be able to, when we move and we've got everything settled in, I won't be thinking, man, I wish I had appropriate clothing that I've knit myself, you know, that it'll be all ready for me there and beautiful in some tote that's ready for cold weather things. So that is the end of the winter goals. That's what I want to accomplish. That's what I want to finish. That is basically personal knitting, even though I'm not sure if the socks will go to me when they're finished. They were originally intended for me when I got them, And so it's still categorized under personal knitting for me. So now we're going to shift our way into responsibility knitting. And this might be a weird category, or maybe some of you really get it. Let me know if you feel the same way about knitting things for other people. I have found myself offering to knit things for people who I love, but also I've kind of mentally overbooked myself. There aren't any deadlines for these, really. I'm looking here to make sure. Well, one of them, it would be good if I got it done in a timely manner because she's a baby, but the rest of them, it doesn't really matter when I get them done. It's just that I'd like to complete that promise that I made, or the statement that I made about that project, to just be able to check it off and be like, good, I did what I said I was going to do, done. Because a lot of times I will say something to someone and then realize later, oh, I said I would do that, I need to do that. And it becomes like me breaking a promise to someone or something. And it's important to me that I do what I say I'm going to do, basically. So the first one on that docket is my daughter's hat. Now, I made one, but I have two daughters. So I made one. This is the Basset hat, and it's so cute. I will put a picture of it up, though, because I did the version, I omitted the edge finishing on it, because one, I was having a hard time with it, and two, my little girl was just excited about the hat and just wanted to wear it. I had tried it on her a couple times to make sure it would fit, and it did, and she's so little, and it also can fit on my head too. It's an entirely ribbed hat, and so it's very versatile. If I were making it for myself, I would have made these longer, obviously, but it covers your ears, which is really nice. And I like the button option. There's also, she walks you through if you want to do I-cords to tie, and then you don't have to do anything on it at all, the ear flaps at all, if you don't want to. But I really, really liked this project, and I tacked up this little business here. And so I'm not going to be doing the finishing edges for this one or the next one, because they need to be the same, because if they're different, then they'll be able to tell them apart, and then we'll have, it's just better for them to be the same. So with this one, I ran out of yarn on one of the ear flaps. I think it was this one. Can you tell where the color changes here? Yeah. There's like, it turns from like a orangey red into a more red orange. And that is because I ran out of the acrylic alpaca blend that I was using for this. My husband gave it to me for Christmas, and I'm so glad I was able to use it already. One of my goals is to make sure to use all of the yarn that he gave me for Christmas, you know, before next Christmas, to make sure that he knows that I used it and I appreciated it. So it is a really good idea for him to buy it again. So I'm using this baby llama yarn from Juniper Moon. It's in the colorway Terracotta. I don't think they make this one anymore. But it is beautiful, isn't it? And then this is a Cumulus alpaca in the natural colorway. And I'm using the same size needles that I used for this, but it is not coming out the same way. And so I think I'm going to actually frog this and start again, because look at how loose that gauge is. It just looks crazy. So that's one of the things I love about this pattern as well, is the beginning is basically a swatch and then you turn it into a hat. So I'm going to be frogging this one, I think, and trying again with a smaller needle size, because I don't think I want to add another strand in there I don't think I do. So I'm going to go down a needle size, see what happens with that, and do that. So that's actually my little Janie's hat. And so obviously I want to make the thing for my daughter that I said I would make for her. Especially when I've already made one for my other daughter, right? So the next one is my brother-in-law's hat. It is in this one. His name is Ian, and I drew his name for our Christmas exchange this past year. And a lot was happening during that period of time, so I never got around. I was originally planning to make him socks, and then I learned his foot is 12 inches long, and I was like, oh, okay, maybe that's a later thing, or maybe not. I don't know. Maybe I'll still end up making him socks. I don't know. But I'm a little bit wary of making socks for people. Is wary the right word? I'm a little bit hesitant, worried about making socks for a person that I haven't measured their foot. So yeah, so I decided to offer to make him a hat instead. So I sent him hat patterns and asked him about yarn choices and color choices. And when I asked him about yarn, if he wanted it to be on the more rustic side or the softer side, he said he wanted to feel like his head was being eaten by a marshmallow. So I said, challenge accepted. This is the Soft and Cushy hat pattern by Pearl Soho. It is a half fisherman's rib hat, and I am holding these 3 strands together for it. These 2 are the same yarn, and this one is a merino silk blend, and it is coming up so squishy. It is just, look at that, like, oh, it's so nice. The first couple of rows, you might be able to see, when I did the tubular cast on and then a couple of rows in, I didn't have this merino silk blend in it, but I added it in because the gauge wasn't quite what I was hoping for. So I didn't tear anything back. I just added it in after I was a few rows in, and I don't think it's any worse for wear. I think I'm just going to continue on, and it'll be a nice little edge there. So the darker gray is a Juniper Moon, Stargazer, Baby Llama, and Silk blend. So it's 70% llama, 30% silk in the colorway Aurora. I'm going to try and, can you see it in the red there? And then the lighter gray is the Nuble yarn in the colorway Cornerstone here. Here we go. Cornerstone. Oh, I'm covering it. In this one. It's hard for me to say that top brand name. So that's what I'm holding together, and I'm really pleased with it. The Soft and Cushy hat by Pearl Soho is a free pattern, and so I'm just going to talk to you really openly about it since it's a free pattern. So I looked at the pattern. His head circumference is just under 24 inches. The largest head circumference size for the pattern is 22 1/4, I think. So, and that stitch count was 100. And they were all in, like sequences of 10. So it went, I think, 80, 90, 100. And I didn't necessarily want to add 2 whole inches onto it because he said it's just under 24 inches. And there's an inch, 1 to 2 inches of positive ease with, 1 to 2 inches of negative ease with this hat. So it will stretch quite a bit, but I don't want it to be like, ugh, you know. So I cast on 104 stitches, and I think that's going to be good. And I did 104 because obviously I need an even number because it's a ribbed hat. This is one of the stitch markers from PoppieJoeandCo on Etsy. I love them. They're so great. They're made of like marble, and so they feel cold. And I just find that really satisfying when I get to the beginning of a new row. Also, this half fisherman's rib is not as fiddly or complicated or, I don't know, annoying as I thought it was going to be. It's actually really nice. So I may be doing like a half fisherman's rib cardigan at some point or something. It is so squishy and so nice. I'm at least going to be thinking about making myself one of these hats. So there's that as the second responsibility knit. Got to get that done. That is his Christmas present, his 2021 Christmas present. And so that's a thing. Okay, next is Didion's socks. One of my husband's coworkers, his name is Didion, he's always wanted hand knit socks. And I was like, what? Who in this world who isn't a knitter or like doesn't, and I guess I don't know his background. I was like, whose dream is to have hand knit socks? So, but that's his thing. That's what he wants. And he wanted purple socks. So I am using the Huasco sock in the Byzantium colorway right here. It's just the most gorgeous purple. Love how tonal it is. And I'm doing my first toe-up sock ever. I know. What? After like, I don't know, 14, 16 pairs of cuff down socks, I am trying my first ever toe-up sock. And this first ever toe-up sock is going to be Meredith's Little Wing socks. They are so sweet. And I'm not doing the 2-color version like her pattern says. I'm just going to do the 1-color version because I think with how tonal this yarn is, it's still going to show up really pretty. That center stitch is going to look really nice. And I just finished the increases for this toe, so now I'm just on to the foot, which is really nice. I am going to modify it to be a tread heavy sole. I've never done the toe up tread heavy sole, and so not only am I going to be, doing my friend's pattern on the top, I'll be able to experiment with the tread heavy toe up situation on the bottom, which is good. And that has been started. That doesn't have a deadline, but I just kind of want to get it done to get it done, And the last thing that is a responsibility knit, because it is supposed to go to someone that I've, I guess Didion socks are the only ones that aren't going to someone I love. Like, I know him, I've met him once, and the rest of them are going to people I love. This is for my niece who was just born last week. Her name is Lilia, and it's going to be this little jumpsuit. So we've got the shoulders done, and we've got everything joined here, and it's really small, but it's like this little button band, and you can see the buttonholes are in there already in the ribbing. And I have on my Instagram story right now a poll to see if we're going to do brown buttons or blue buttons for it. I am not sure. This yarn is Yurt and Yarrow Yarns, which is Katie Anders yarn. So you should definitely go check out her shop. This is the color number 2. And it's a DK yarn. And this is her label there. And it's a superwash wool because, of course, it's a baby knit. And so since it's not for my child, I don't want to give her something that she's going to have to, keep track of. This is baby number 6 for her. And so I don't want, someone doing laundry who's not, my brother or my sister-in-law to, basically ruin a knit because I made it out of something silly. So I don't know if this is going to be enough to finish the whole jumpsuit. So my plan is that if I get to the legs and I'm like, this isn't gonna make it, and so I'm probably gonna have to knit the legs two at a time, then I'm going to fade in another color of something, and I might do gray. I might do, if we choose the blue buttons, I might do blue. I'm not sure. But I still have to do the ribbing on the top and on the little arms here. And so whatever I might have to fade on the legs, I'm going to use for that so that it'll look cohesive. This is not going to take me very much longer to finish, and I probably will focus on this. Probably this and winter goal knitting for the next week. To make sure that it gets to her in a timely fashion so that it's not months later and it doesn't even fit her little body. So I'm very excited about that. It's a super cute pattern. I saw it on Instagram and just immediately went and got it because it's perfect. It's perfect for what I feel like their whole family brand is, and it's good. Okay, so this last part, not last part, we still have acquisitions to do, but this next part is all about design, new design. So I have signed up for some test knits and I'm excited about them. I'm very excited about them, and so I know that I will get them done and I'll be glad that I did them. But there are 3 test knits that I've signed up for that need to be done by the end of April. Like all of them are going to be done by the end of April. So they all have different deadlines, but that's the last one. And the first one here is the Malwina Sock. And I am using the Sweet Georgia Tough Love sock base, and this colorway is called Strawberry Tea, and I absolutely love it. It actually reminds me of fire. I think it's great, and I like how it's knitting up here in this cuff. The Malwina Sock has a very similar lace pattern to the sweater, the lace pattern on the sleeve on the sweater. And so I think I'm really going to enjoy that because I really enjoyed the sweater. I'm about 2 rows into the lace pattern, so you can't even see it yet. But I think because of how variegated this yarn is, the lace is going to look kind of cool because it's more of like a tonal variegated than like something that'll mess it up. So I'm excited about that, and it's very soft. I've enjoyed the other sock knit that I did with Sweet Georgia sock before, and so I think this is going to be really lovely. The next one is actually for the same designer who did the Malwena Sweater also and the Malwena Sock, and she is doing a cardigan. It is called the Ola Cardigan, and it's so beautiful. Oh my goodness, it's beautiful. And it's around the same yarn weight as the Malwena Sweater, and so I feel like it's not going to take me very long to get it done. Also, I'm very excited about the yarn that I chose to do it in. So I picked these up at my local yarn store, and I'm just so happy about it, guys. Oh my goodness. My friend Gayla, who owns the yarn store, she saw it and she went, "Oh, are you gonna hold those together?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's for a cardigan." And she just goes, "Oh, that's gonna be nice." And I was like, well, if she's gasping, it's a good choice. So this one is the 100% extra fine baby alpaca from Juniper Moon Farm in the colorway Tumbleweed. And I think that name is kind of fun. It's just like this oatmeal-y color, but I think Tumbleweed is a fun name. And then this is the Cumulus Alpaca, and it's in the colorway Pearl, But I don't know. I think it might actually be a little different than the natural colorway. Maybe not. Maybe they just changed the name. I don't know. Does that look different to you? I think it does. This one's not as bright as the natural one. Anyway, I'm very excited about this. I want to cast it on very soon. The Ola Cardigan is a saddle shoulder cardigan, but it is not seamed. And I'm just on board with that. So whatever we need to do those corners or whatever, that sounds fantastic. And I'm going to be casting that on really soon. The last test knit that I signed up for is called the Phases Sweater. And it is by, her Instagram handle is the Native Knitter. I've cast on the stitches for my size here. It's just a little bebe cast on. And this is the color palette. Okay, maybe. Will I be able to get it here? Here we go. This is the color palette that I'm going to be going with for it. I absolutely love it. It's going to be perfect. This is a fingering weight yarn, so I'm going to be holding it double. And I think I'm going to have more than enough to do the body in that. And she was saying that we could also edit the sleeves on it too. So I think I might make a long sleeve version. I'm still thinking about that. That is just a non-superwash Highland wool by Lizco Knits. She's an acquaintance from Discord, and she had dyed some yarn and she was getting rid of it, and I thought it was gorgeous, and so I said I will take that yarn. That sounds great. The kind of super dark red purple here is called Mulberry Heather, and this is the base yarn that I used for Destiny's Musselburgh, and this is what was left over. So I am really happy to see how much I'll be able to use of that. Just have like a little bit left afterwards, and that'll be nice. And then this is Knitting Nakabi's Blush Copper. She only had two of those, two skeins of that in her last shop update, and I love it. It's so great. It looks so good, and it's perfectly named. It's just this pinky copper, and I bought both skeins that she had in her shop update because I wanted to make sure that she knew that it was a color she should dye again. For all of us. I did that for all of us. I bought that yarn for me, for all of us. Just kidding. But I love her yarn because it's all non-superwash and it's all naturally dyed, so it's just really cool. She also puts on there what it was dyed with. So the blush copper was dyed with madder root and black tea, and then this green is called Silver Linings because it's this silvery green, and it was dyed with elderberries. And this is from her Herbology box that she did in February. There's an April box that is, I think, open until Friday, so hurry over to her Instagram if it's before Friday and get on that bandwagon, because this April's theme is chamomile, and I've already signed up for it. I'm all about this box right now. She does such a good job. And I mean, come on, a box that's curated for a knitter by a knitter. Yes, please. Thank you. And I love it. I've decided that her yarn is one of my favorite things because when I get it, I feel like it's special and I need to find the perfect project for it, but it cannot stay on my shelf very long. I have to use it. And so I don't have any of her yarn that I'm not using in a project right now. So obviously I need to get more. That's the solve for that. That's what we need to do. So those are the test knits that I've signed up for, that I need to make sure that I am a responsible test knitter and a good test knitter. I've weighed all my skeins. I've made sure that I know the yardage for everything before I start, which is really good. And now there are a couple of designs that I'm doing myself that I want to just kind of get out of my brain so that there's more space for other things. So one of them is the DK version of the Tread Heavy sock. This is so cute. This is so cute. So I striped the leg on this one just because it's all greens and I really like it. This is knitting Nakabi yarn in the colorway Weeds. And it's this really, that's actually more true to color back here. It's this really great color. Do I have the, I think I have the ball band here. And it was dyed with marigolds. So I just absolutely love it. And I am trying to use up the scraps from my Musselburgh, actually. The Musselburgh, I used a sport weight merino yak and linen blend for that hat, and I held it with the Surrey alpaca in the colorway Moss. So I have the ball band for the main yarn right here. It is this one here. Oh, can you see it here? It's in the colorway Mosquito Coast by Stolen Stitches. And these come in 50 gram skeins. So I only have this littlest bit here. Oh no. Oh no. Okay. Of the yarn left. So I split it up. I split it in half to make sure I knew how much I was going to be using per sock. But I think I'm still going to have a little bit of this left to use in something. I don't know if I'm going to have enough of this to finish the second sock in the same way that I finished this one, because I also split the Cumulus alpaca in half, and I had to use a little bit of, I had to break into that one by the time I got to the heel turn. So I might be a little off on my, on how much I need for that. But this is knitting Nakabi in the Weeds. This is the Stolen Stitches yarn with the alpaca. This is the Silver Linings, the elderberry dyed yarn, because I had to use it again in here. And then I was planning on doing heels and toes with the yak linen blend, but I don't think I'm gonna have enough alpaca to make that look cohesive, so I'm not. I think I'm just gonna finish it out with the Weeds yarn, and we'll call it done. And that is the DK weight sock for the Tread Heavy design. Now it is going really well. I'm gonna be getting through this sock and then writing up what I did, make sure that the second sock is just as good, and then be calling for testers. So if you would like to test the DK weight sock, be sure to follow me on Instagram, because that's where I put my test call. I have a couple of testers who did the fingering weight version who have said that they are interested in doing the DK weight version, and they did such a good job with the fingering weight version. I'm definitely going to let them do this one if they have the availability when it's ready to go. So yeah, so that's where we're at on this one. It is so close to being done, and these DK weight socks knit up so quickly. They're so nice, and I think I'm getting a better idea of what I actually need for it to fit my foot well. So I actually went down another stitch count for what I originally thought was my size. So that's great though. It's good to know what we're doing here. So we've got this almost ready to go. And the stitch counts are obviously different than the fingering weight version, but the whole concept is still, it's pretty seamless and almost exactly like what needed to happen for the fingering weight version. So I'm very glad that there haven't been some unforeseen hitches or anything with it as of yet. So that's really good. And then the last design thing in my head is a thing that I'll be giving notes away for free because it's not something that I could have people pay for. It's an idea around section 2 of clue 1 in Stephen West Shawlography shawl. So if you did that shawl, then you know what that looks like, right? Like the wedges that looked like a sun on there, like a sunrise or a sunset on that shawl. And I thought this as well, and I heard so many other people say, like, wouldn't this be a pretty yoke on a sweater? And I was like, yeah, it really would be. So I knit up, I thought what would work originally would be doing a two-sided sunburst, but I knit that up. I knit up one half. I went and just reknit the clue 1 sections 1 and 2, and I thought, okay, I'll do that, and it's this pretty little semicircle. Then I'll do another one, and then I'll, like, I don't know, seam them together at the shoulders, then pick up stitches and do a sweater. But it didn't really work. Like, I thought it was going to look kind of boat necky or something at the top. And after I did the first one and I was trying to figure out what to do, I blocked it and I was like, okay, this is how it would work. And then I realized it's not going to work. It's not going to work. So what I've decided to do is I cast on double the amount of stitches that you would have at the end of section 1 with that little semicircle at the very beginning. I cast on twice as many stitches as that, and I'm going to do and I did a provisional cast on because I'm going to do a double thick neckline. And then what I'm going to do is do those wedges just all the way around the circle in a worsted weight yarn. And I think that is going to be just right. So I have this worsted weight yarn on a 4mm needle, a US 6. And I'm not sure if after the neckline I'm going to go up to a 4.5 US 7. I'm still thinking about that. I think I probably will. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to frame it with the, here's what I need help with. I think what I want to do the neckline in this green, do the frame part in the green, and then, you know, the parts that look like kind of stained glass that are coming out of it, do that in this color, which is roasted pumpkin. And this is the colorway Blue Spruce in Shepherd's Wool. I got a bunch of this at my yarn store because Shepherd's Wool won't be available in my yarn store or anyone's yarn store soon. They're only selling it in their own place or online because Stonehenge Fiber Mill is having to kind of step back a little in their production because one of their dyers has to complete some government contracts, and so it just got a little too overwhelming and they had to step back a little bit. They're not going anywhere, they're still in business, but they aren't able to do anything with stockists at this point. So one of the things I have the hardest time with is color and choosing color. And once I've chosen it, I'm usually like, yeah, that was a good choice. But I'm trying to think, should I put like a dark red with this or a purple? Yeah, help me out. What do you think? What do you think? Because I've got a whole neckline to go before I need to make that decision actually. And I'm really excited about it. Obviously, Stephen West's pattern is his, and I will not be, charging anything for the notes on this sweater. In the notes, I would just be saying, like, cast on twice as many stitches as you would have after section 1 of clue 1, so that if you already have the pattern, you could reference those numbers, and if you don't already have the pattern, you're not getting information about the pattern that you haven't purchased. So that's the plan. And that, my friends, is the end of the whips, design things. This is what is going on. I have to focus on finishing and not casting anything on for a minute. Maybe just making myself a little dream list for the future, because not only do I have a ton of stuff on my needles right now, I'm going to count. Yes, 13 projects that I need to finish, that need to be finished at some point. And my family and I are moving back to Indiana this summer. So I have a little bit of time before I need to pack up my whole house, including this room, and not have a ton of projects that I want to take with me in the van, because I don't want to pack them because they're the projects that I want to work on, blah, 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 right? So I'm going to have to focus on clearing my needles before we move, and then just giving in to whatever case of cast-on-itis that I have once we're actually in the place that we're going to be. We're in the process of buying a house right now. It's super cute. It has this orange door. It's really cute. But yeah, it's going to be a thing, and we're moving soon. It keeps getting like kind of moved back and back, closer and closer, and I'm like, oh, okay. So anyway, let's not talk about the stress of moving and potentially when that'll happen. We just know we need to focus on clearing off the needles however we need to do that. So now we're on to acquisitions, the last part of this podcast episode. I've had these for a while, and I realized I didn't show you guys because I've just been using them. They just immediately went into my stuff that I use all the time because I really, really like them. I have one on Ian's hat there, but these are PoppieJoeandCo stitch markers, and of course they have that marble. Can you see the marble there on the bottom? Maybe it's easier to not have it blow out down here, but you can see they're like soft stitch markers. They have these little, I hesitate to call them wires, but they're soft wires. And so you can use them on bigger needle projects, and that's really nice. And I love the way they feel. I want to get some more of them. She has some round ones. She has some floral ones. I just really like her stitch markers. They look really great. Another acquisition that we've got today is the Bigfoot Knits book. I have been thinking about getting this one for a long time because Earth Tones girl, she is like a fabulous sock knitter. I would say if you really want to learn about socks, there are 3 people that you need to follow. One is, of course, the crazy sock lady, Kay. She's fantastic. 2, Nicole of Earth Tones Girl. She has like a whole class just for free on YouTube about how to get yourself really well-fitting socks. And 3, I would say follow Kate Jones of the Bakery Bears, because she's just always knitting socks, and she's one of those people that goes into great detail about what she's doing and why she's doing it, and I really appreciate that as a knitter. I want to know why you're doing what you're doing, because it might line up with my goals, or it might be completely opposite of like how my foot is shaped, and so I'm going to go the other way and find a technique that's different. or the opposite of that. So this was recommended by Nicole, and it's a really cool, just basically it's like a workbook with a bunch of, if you were taking a class on socks, on how to do socks, this would be the book that you would take to class with you and you would come home and do your homework with. Like, there's all these toe shapes in here. There's all these measurements over here. It's fantastic. And it's completely, it's completely amazing and probably somewhat unnecessary for most people, but I love it. I absolutely love it. So I want to go through this workbook and just basically find out how to make the perfect socks for myself and share any knowledge that I gain in that endeavor, and hopefully you'll be able to pick up some cool tidbits too. So nerding out on socks, definitely. All right. This is from the Comfy Clothiers, and these are like de-pilling combs. This is a multi-fabric comb, and so it's kind of almost like, I don't know how to describe it. I want to say gravelly, but it's just almost like it's got sand on it to help you with your clothes. So it's a multi-fabric comb. So it'll take all your little, you can see there, all the little fuzz on there. And you can just pull it right off. And it helps with like lint and de-pilling and stuff. But this one is the wool and cashmere comb. And I just de-pilled the Malwena sweater with it, and it did a beautiful job. I was a little bit hesitant because I didn't want to be rough on my knits, right? I was a little bit scared because I got a lint remover, and maybe y'all have seen that Instagram ad as well that was up everywhere for a while. It has this big old handle, and people are like cleaning off their stairs with it and stuff, getting hair from 10 years ago off their carpets and their couches. And I was like, oh, that looks really great. I'm going to order that. So I did, and it is so aggressive. Like, I tried it on one of our pillowcases for one of our throw pillows, and it snagged that mother up like immediately. And I was like, well, this is not going anything like anywhere near anything but carpet or something extremely hardy. So I was still on the lookout for something to de-pill my knits with. And this Drops Nepal yarn is just so soft, and I wear this sweater all the time. I needed something to help me with the pilling situation. And I did this yesterday with it to just be ready for release day. You know, we want to get a little snazzy. And it was great. In fact, I would say it might be a little too gentle because there's still a little bit, or maybe I was too gentle. There's still a little bit of pilling that I saw on like part of it. So I'm going to go over it and make sure maybe it wasn't just like, you know, when you shave your legs and there's just like a strip that you missed. Maybe that's what's going on also. So I'm going to look at that, and I say that as if I shave my legs consistently. No. Just no. Just no, you know? After 4 children and how many lockdowns, and, you know, I'm at home all the time. There's just not a reason to do this. Who are we trying to impress with our bare legs? I don't know. It's starting to warm up though, so I might change my opinion about that. Last acquisition is one of JoJos Bags. Isn't it wonderful? if you follow Cozy Up Knits, it's a group of sisters in Canada who are knitwear designers. They come out with a design like every month or something, or at least every quarter. It is so great. They're always thinking up something. They're always cooking up something. They're always handing each other things to knit for each other. I think it's fantastic. And the mama of the troop, she makes project bags, and they're fantastic. And this is one of the big ones that she makes. And so I'm going to be putting the sweater that I want to focus on in this bag, carry it around with me, so that this is the one that I have with me all the time, because I have learned that if something is in my hands, I will knit it. So it's going to happen. So I just need to make sure that what I want to focus on is what's in my hands. So I'm actually going to put my cardigan in here right now. It's going to be great. There we go. Because it's a big old thing. There we go. It's in there. And then we're going to put the yarn in there. Yes. And then there's this pocket in here. And there's also here, there's like a zipper pocket for your notions and things. So I really like this. I like the lining fabric too. And there's a handle. I can put my hand through it while I'm carrying a billion things to and from the car. This is just perfect. She does such a good job with these bags, and I'm so thankful to be able to have one. I've been looking at different fabrics and stuff, and I thought, oh, well, I really like that one, like the design of that one, but it's not really the fabric I would choose. And then this one came up, and I was like, oh, I need to get that one before someone else does. Well, that's it, friends. Thanks so much for hanging out with me. And, you know, remember to press all the buttons, subscribe, like, leave me a comment about some thoughts that you had while you were watching. And if you want to see anything that I talked about, like links to patterns or acquisitions or things like that, they're all in the description box below. So just click on that and you'll be able to see everything that I mentioned in this episode. I can't wait to see you next time. Hopefully we'll have the winter goals accomplished, but if not, I'll just be growing in grace for myself. Why does that make me want to be like, you know? Can you tell my inner critic is like mean to me? Yeah, so here's to making our own clothes and giving ourselves the time to make them. Happy knitting until next time.